Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm going to be going over today my Fire Rai list that I'm going to be running tomorrow, which is October 19th, 2023 at the Yeti webcam online event. This is the post-ban after reckless conversion ban, so I'm going to be trying out this list. Tech that I sort of been brewing at this point, but yeah, let's get right into it and what we're going to go over. Starting with the material deck. Of course, as you expect, we have Spirit of Fire. We're going to have level 1 Rai Spellcast Crafter, level 2 Rai Archmage, and level 3 Rai Stormseer. As my guess, this is the basic package of Rai. There's not much else that changes from this. You could play Mana Weaver. There's a couple that's going on Mana Weaver, but not this time. We're going to go ahead and stick with the basic Fire Rai material deck. I'm going to put these up here just so they're sort of out of the way. And we get to a couple other cards. We do have some core cards like Chalice of Blood. Chalice of Blood is a really good card. Use if you're facing aggro, anything gets you up to 20 health. You go and crack this, draw 2 cards. As the point now with Rai slow down, you're gonna be playing a little bit more of a controlling matchup. We do throw in 2 other cards, which since Rai likes to draw, we like to include these as a whole. We have Wind Bobble and Fire Bobble. Fire Bobble might not be as relevant lately, but it doesn't hurt to have in there just to get the extra card draw if you're running behind, if you're not hitting your levels, or if you flat out on Arcane. It's something that at least gives you an extra card draw, as well as the normal GCR package. Pretty self-explanatory on that one. Then for the usual, curving out the rest of the right material deck, we have Crystal Empowerment, which is always good, especially for the later game you get into. You have the basic Tome of Sacred Lightning, Tome of Knowledge game plan. And then for some lists, especially as you're expecting more aggro, or at least I am going on Running Flames, we're bringing Nullifying Lantern into our basic main material deck. This lets us prevent those Running Flame damages as well as a couple other things that might use that Graveyard interaction. Not so much that now with Crux and Crux Sight not being as good, might not be relevant for that anymore. Moving on to the main deck. For the main deck, we do have the basic Arcane package, and by that I mean we're going to be running 4 Arcane Sights. Always a good card, 0 cost, draw 1, pretty much replaces itself, I should say, and then you get an extra level for the turn. Pretty much a good auto include into any Arcane Rai list. And then the next we have 2 Spell Shield Arcane. There are some running 3, but I'm running 2 just for the Arcane discard as well as the preventing damage. There's some other cards in here that we'll go over a little bit later, but for the most part, I think 2 Spell Shield Arcane feels about right. You could run 3 if you want, if you cut some of the other cards I'm going to be listing later on. But, I mean, for now, it's pretty good. Not too many things are dealing fast speed damage and want to prevent this, which might make it good if you say getting Rending Flamed. You prevent a whole bunch of damage, which might be beneficial for the number of Enlightened counters you'll get. Then we still go with the normal. For Arcane Disposition, Disposition is not as good anymore. This is pretty much just going to be used for a setup. Because of this, you're going to pretty much still be using this to draw 3 cards, but you want to make sure you have something else to pay cost to pretty much put your hand down so you don't discard the extra card you're drawing. I've used this before with a combination of either a couple of Creative Shocks display cards or Appear in the Mana, something that lets me put my hand back down in the memory, and something that hopefully I can get to the next turn to then combo off with the extra cards I've drawn. And then, of course, to round out the damage of the Rai package, we have the 4 Arcane Blasts. Arcane Blast is very much the core point of Arcane Rai, casting it for free with efficiency and dealing 11 damage to target champion, especially now that Majestic Spirit might not be as relevant with the Crux getting the sort of Avarice band. It's something that we might see, still pretty good. Can't argue it. For the next part, we're going to go over a couple other cards, pretty much rounding out the Arcane package. We do throw in 2 Anger of the Skies. This is pretty much expecting any aggro matchups like Wind the Rain or Fire the Rain if you're able to hit that level 3. And we get Anger of the Skies to clear the board, dealing 4 damage with the class bonus. It also gives us a discard or banish target for Arcane to increase our level as well. And then we're going to go into the 2 Erratic Bolts. Some run 4, some run 2. Some even run 3. I think this card's not bad. It's a little bit worse to wear now that everything's slowed down. You can't come off in that same turn. Still good for the level damage and the banishing 2 to draw 2, but I think going on the 2 might be the right spot for right now. We have to see how everything shapes up later on. And then finally, we have 2 Advent of the Stormcallers. Darkest Hour ran this in the I shouldn't say most recent, a few months ago, the TTS tournament. This is a card that's pretty good at throwing arcane cards into your banishment, as well as getting around cards like Tithe Proclamation. So having this 2 of in here, you might even bump this up to 3 if you want, if you're running into a lot more Tithe procs. Is a really good addition to this deck. It really lets you get the extra arcane card you want, get the levels, and as well to allow something to pop off for that turn. Couple of other odd additions I've seen going around. Again, this is Darkest Hours list that I've tweaked a little bit. We have the wonderful Voltic Sphere. This card's pretty good. It's a deal 3 to a unit or deal 5 to an ally, as well as giving us the banish effect if we need it for the reduce arcane card, as well as adding another arcane to our banishment for the level. And then we are running 3 shock therapies. Personally, I'm not fully sold on shock therapy. I've run this card at least in about 5 matches so far. I have yet to cast it once. Every time I've cast it, there's just not a point because I'm either using my light encounters or something like that, so it's not worth the damage, or it's pretty much just becoming arcane discard fodder for banishment in order to get us that level off of paying costs for other cards. But so I'm not fully sold on this. This might be adjusted later on. I think it's probably one of the slots that are free to tweak as you need in this list, but something to definitely keep an eye on and see how you like it. And finally, the card that really I had to add back in here that I wasn't a big fan of, the Vecus Conversion Van, we are going with 3 Power Overwhelming. So Power Overwhelming is a card that lets us remove any number of light encounters and then turn it into levels. So this really helped us now with Vecus Conversion gone and banishing the extra cards. Really helps us get to that level 11 or even extra more if we need it if we're trying to Fireball combo a turn. So it's something to keep an eye on. I think 3 might not be the play. Might have to go up to 4, cutting some of those shock therapies. But right now, 3 is where you want to at least test the waters. It's enough copies in there that you're allowed to run it, get a lot of good amount of hits off of it. But like I said, keep an eye on it. You might want to move this up to 4 later on. Moving on to fire. So the fire portion of the Fire Rai deck, you have the basic fire package, and by that I mean we're running 4 creative shocks. Self-explanatory, draw 2 cards, discard a card. It's pretty good at refilling your hand, netting, as well as dealing 2 to something if you're facing an aggro deck, if you're already at that mage level. And then we're running the 4 fireballs for an alternative win con if we have to banish our Arcane Blast, or if we don't hit enough Arcane Blast, we can at least still fireball to kill units or hit our opponent for a decent amount of damage. And then a couple of additions that we've added. We went back to adding 2 increasing danger. This to me was to help to round out the draw that we're missing in Reckless Conversion. It's something I can cast early on and to draw an extra card, put a card in the memory, and try and get cards faster than I did before. Honestly, 2 is okay so far. I've sideboarded this out a couple times. It's really good if you're going first. So we're really good to see overall what's going to happen. And another tech that we're running is that we have 3 disintegrates. So running the 3 disintegrates in here is really good, especially if we're facing against Merlin. If I'm still expecting some form of Majestic Spirit to still be around, people running water or other forms of lists, even though sort of Avarice is banned, I think people might still be trying to have it work. And this is also really good if you're going to be running into Tithe Proclamation. So this will get rid of the Tithe Proc, allowing you to draw your extra cards, set up your hand for the next turn as much as possible. This might be able to go down lower than 3. I'm still running 1 in the sideboard as well. I think for right now, I think 3 is an okay number. Maybe swap around numbers a little bit as you need and see fit. So now we're going to go into our normal package of cards. By normal package, I mean the norm element. You're running 3 Scry Skies. Pretty much self-explanatory, drawing card in the memory, letting us glimpse set up our hand for other draw effects that might happen later on. And then we are going to run the normal 4 dungeon guides to hit our level 3 Rai a little bit quicker, leveling up and banishing a little bit less so we can have our hand full enough to do a couple other things. And then we are going to shift these up a little bit. Running 4 Pure in the Mana. Pure in the Mana is a good card. It gives us 2 Enlightened counters plus the level you are, especially when you're level 3. It's really helps set up extra draws or for your Power Overwhelming to have enough Enlightened counters to still combo off by drawing on top of it. And then the normal for Careful Studies. Another card sets up 5 enlightened counters, or if it's your first mage action of the turn, or mage spell action, I should say, you're going to go ahead and go up to 6 enlightened counters, giving you 2 extra draws on top of it. And then finally, we are into the little bit of extra tech I've added, expecting control into the meta. And by that, I mean we added in 3 peaceful reunions into the main. Pretty much prevents attacks. Let's just give an extra turn to set up. So this is pretty good. Also, if you have 4 arcane cards in hand, we pay the 4, pay the cost, and we have good cards to banish into our banish zone. They give levels into Fire Rai as we're leveling up. And for now, we're also running 2 resolute stands with another one in the side. Sometimes this card is coming more handy than a resolute stand, mostly because the fact you can pay this with no cost and prevent the 3 attack damage, which is relevant. And sometimes, you know, it matters. So now we're going to get into our sideboard. So with our sideboard, we are running 1 material card, which is a Viridian Protective Trinket. This allows us to pretty much, for the water matchups, try and combo off with having some protection, making them cost a little bit extra to do any other pieces to disrupt what we're trying to do. I've yet to have this come in too much just yet, because usually I'm coming off too quickly, or I have enough cards to pay. For now, it's there if in case it becomes an issue, and I'm already having it sort of set aside if needed. We run 2 more Erratic Bolts. I've yet to find a use for this just yet. I'm thinking more that I'm going to be running this into situations where if I have to do more damage than I'm expecting, and I'm running out of Arcane Blast or Fireballs too much, it comes in as an alternative win con. Yeah, I haven't really run into it too much, but it's there in case I need it. We have the 3rd Spell Shield Arcane. Like I said before, if you're dealing with aggro or non-attack based damage, it's nice to have this 3rd copy in there so we can get the light encounters as well as pretty much utilize it whenever we need to. Varuk, for the matchups that you need to get through those fireballs that they have too much preventing damage, we have Varuk there to go ahead and deal with that. 2 more resolute stands and a peace reunion. Like I said, dealing with the little bit of the aggro matchups, it's saved up some slots as we need to, and we throw these in here if it's needed. I found myself cutting increasing dangers or the disintegrates to throw in some of these cards. Pretty much the main ones I'm usually sideboarding out. If I'm dealing with something I need more damage, not hitting enough, I could go ahead and swap out some shock therapies for these other 3 arcane cards and not really lose any of the arcane ratios that we're running currently, and won't really disrupt the flow too much. And here you go. Here is a look at the main deck and how it's laid out. There'll be a link as well in the description for this list on what the main deck is. And then, like I said, any other questions, concern, throw in the comments, any suggestions you might make and edit to this build. But thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little deck tech. If you have any tips or suggestions, feel free to send it my way. And like I said, thank you guys for watching. Peace.